sorry guys, I couldn't get the polo shirt, the debut it deserved tonight. I couldn't get the result it deserved for its first outing, but it's certainly a historic occasion. Turns out a historic occasion for bad reasons as well as good. And a beautiful item of clothing. My friend, thanks very much for that again. And fits absolutely beautifully, and there's no many items of clothing that fit me beautifully these days in my wardrobe there. That's one of the many reasons I've got to get myself out for a walk whenever I can, especially in the daylight, what little daylight there is left by the end of the working day these days. I've just got to get myself exercise, whatever I'm doing. It's a creepily warm week. It's warm, but in a kind of horrible way. A dank week, really wet as well, grey, dull. Oh, there's not a lot of sunshine about at all. You know, it's pathetic fallacy. So today I was like, I got a chance. I finished all the stuff I had to do. I had a chance to go for a wee walk round about before the sun went down. So I set off for Bingham's Pond. And the real reason I go down to Bingham's Pond, which is it features in a few of the poems of the great Edwin Morgan, the Macher, Scotland's first modern Macher, first modern poet laureate, so to speak. And he stayed in the kind of modernist flats just across the road, other side of Great Western Roads. And in his days, it was the boating pond. He talks about the boating pond in his poems, and folk will still be ice skating on it as well. It's certainly a slightly different setup. It's been changed a bit, the setup of it. They've changed the kind of pavements around the banking and all that of Bingham's Ponds over the past few decades. But mostly it's because it's right next to Garton Naval Hospital, and there's a chance I might see somebody in my walk around that way that's even unhealthier than me. And there's folk walking about with like one leg and no arms and stuff like that who's still outpacing me in my walk around about the area. So I had to have a wee sit down because I'm just so grossly, morbidly obese. I'm pretty much like my club these days. I can only go so far and then I'll have to stop for a wee rest. So I sat down in these benches in the way around Bingham's Pond. If you know Bingham's Pond at all, just off Great Western Road, as you head between the Tapper Byers Road and Anniesland Cross, there's these benches at one point of it that are kind of on the other side of a table. You know, it's like a picnic table thing, and you get the benches either side. There's two of them, and they sit in this little kind of corner of tarmac, because there's rats about there. I have been doing Bingham's Pond, walking around, and I've seen mice, I've seen rats. This is in the summertime, so you don't want to be hanging about there too long. And I'd passed this, I was going to say old fella, I don't really have the right to call him an old fella, I'm 56, but this fella was probably getting towards 80 or something like that, but obviously very fit for his age. Had a backpack on, he was reading notes. He had like kind of pages of notes as I passed him outside the hospital, and then I got up to the pond. I just, I'm having a wee sit in this bench, and then he appears again, come up behind me, and he comes up towards there's these two tables, and they're both empty. Well, the other one's empty, but he's coming up towards the one that I'm sitting at, and I'm like, oh, it's one of these old folk that's just, got nothing better to do with their time. He's going to come and start a conversation. But he goes to the side of me, doesn't he? Come straight towards me. I'm sitting right at the end of the wee bench, end of this table, and he's tapping the surface of the table, and I'm like, oh, what the hell's going on here? I'm going to have to just get up and walk away. And he's going, sorry to bother you, and I'm thinking, well, don't bother me then, just walk away. I was not in the best of moods, but he says it's just I was just double checking if that was the material that I thought it was, or if it was actually wood. And it's this kind of plasticky, really durable plastic stuff. And it's done up to look like wood, to look like a wooden picnic table, and I'm just kind of like, oh no, I see what you mean. It's really convincing. It's quite, you would think that's, but just to make conversation, just not to be a pig ignorant get. And the fella's gone, well, actually, I used to work with that material for back in my working days. I used to work with that material, and it's really incredibly durable. It's got a lifespan of over 40 years. This is all. I'll test that. In my weight, sitting on it. That was just making a wee joke, self-deprecating, sitting on the bench. I'll test it. Its durability with my. And he just kind of walked away. And I thought, you were all uptight there. But I'm thinking, 15, 16 years ago, you've got a cheek to make it. This is some old guy who's going to start bothering you, and being a pain in the neck and being really boring and all that. He says, well, 15, 16 years ago. Number one, you know that young yourself. And number two, he's walking about with a rucksack in his back, striding round the pond. He doesn't need to stop for a seat. He's I'm far fitter than you, and also you were sitting not that long ago telling folk that Rangers and Roma both reached their first European final in the year 1961, and James Tavernier is actually making his 61st appearance in the Europa League group stages tonight, which is equaling the record of Andreas Ulmer of RB Salzburg in terms of players making record appearances, making a number of appearances for one club in the Europa League proper. And this is the 80th club who've played in a European final that I'll be seeing to get off the complete list of 106 clubs. You're thinking, you're slagging that guy for what he's saying to you, and then by the time he was leaving, I found myself going, what is it? I just had to stop myself. Mate, what material? What's the name of the material? I didn't realise that's what he's thinking. It's probably his tester. If this person asks me what material is it, what's the name of the material, then I'll have a conversation with them. Just make a few pass remarks, and they just kind of pass remark politely back to me. I'll just walk on. That's a good method. But I found myself thinking, is it some sort of kind of like an amalgam, or not a composite, more of a composite, and they probably chuck in some wee bits that make it look like wood. Have to probably paint it or something, drop some paint in there to make it look like wood. But I thought, 40 years. He didn't say 41 years. He says it's over 40 years. And I'm thinking, that's what I was saying 15, 16 hours earlier on my podcast, my preview pod for Rangers against Roma in the Europa League group stage at Ibrox. I was saying that this game came one day short of 41 years since my first ever European tie, the first European club tie I attended, which was Rangers versus Inter in the UEFA Cup, as it was called then. It's the same trophy that we're playing for now. It's just that was the iteration of this very competition back then. It was called the UEFA Cup, and 41. He didn't say it lasts up to 41 years. He says over 40 years. Well, it's tomorrow. Tomorrow, the 7th of November, 1984 was at that game. So it's tomorrow that is 41 years. It's over 40 years. It's really durable. It's got a lifespan of over 40 years. So is this it? Is this a comment? Did this guy actually exist? Have I made him up? I haven't made him up. I swear in David Cooper's left foot, I am not making this actually happen today. This guy came up and spoke to me, and that was a comment he left, and he just got up the steps and onto Great Western Road and away, and I was sitting there, and that's when it hit me. Just over 40 years. This is unbelievable. Because European football sustains me. European club competition sustains me in my support of Rangers, but just in life in general. I absolutely love it. I wouldn't know anything about, long before I knew about Hemingway and Fitzgerald's and Ezra Pound, Alice B. Toklas and Gertrude Stein and all that kind of stuff. And before I even went to Paris and minced around Shakespeare and company, which had moved by that point anyways. It's different. It's a different place now, But before I actually done all that or knew anything about it, Paris already excited me because of the 1961-62 European Cup quarter-final playoff between Real Madrid and Juventus. Juventus going over to the Bernabeu and becoming the first club ever to beat Real Madrid in the Bernabeu in European competition. 61. No, Real Madrid had won 5 straight, the first 5 European Cups on the bounce. And they go over there and they've got it's Omar Savori, he scores the only goal of the game, and Juventus go over there and they wear all black. They're an all black kit, which is quite a thing back then in the early 60s. It's like, you're all white, 120,000 here. Sod you. We win 1-0. Real Madrid go over to Turin. They go over to Stadio Comunale and they win over there. So it has to go to a playoff in the days. No away goals, no penalties. It went to a playoff, and the playoff was in Paris. It was the Parc des Princes, the old Parc des Princes. The old, before they got it done up again, 1970, the beautiful pre-stressed concrete cathedral that it is these days. But back then it was even the pink racing track, the pink track round it. That's where the Tour de France used to set off, like Eddie Merckx and all these guys. Eddie Merckx did it after it was done up as well as before it was done up the Parc des Princes. And there's these flashbulbs, all the photographers have got the old school kind of the press card stuck in the band of their hats, kind of style that you would see in a 1940s Hollywood movie. A kind of film noir type Hollywood movie, a scandal outside the courtroom, and they're all gathered behind the goals as the goals are going. Real Madrid won 3-1, and they're wearing this beautiful, when they wearing this beautiful kind of purple kit in the second leg in Turin, that beautiful purple kit that they wore. I don't know, it's purple, it's violet, it's kind of lighter than Fiorentina's violet. They wore it in the final that season when Bussa scored a hat-trick before half-time in the Amsterdam Olympic Stadium against Benfica, but Benfica beat them 5-3. They wore the latest version of it in the 2017 Champions League final when they beat Juventus 4-1 in Cardiff. And Cristiano Ronaldo scoring again in the Champions League final. And that one, it's absolutely beautiful, a gorgeous kit. And I remember watching, I was like 1989, 90, I think it is. Juventus played Austria Vienna. They played Austria Vienna in the UEFA Cup, I think it was. Pierluigi Casaraghi, big glamorous looking dude up front, and they're wearing the all black kit. They're wearing all black, and of course Austria Vienna have a violet kit, and they played the game at the Prater Stadium. So I'm watching that, just watching the highlights in Ken McRobert's European Roundup, and I'm wetting myself with these kits. I've seen photographs of this stuff. I've seen photographs of Juventus against Real Madrid when they were wearing the same kind of, they wore that in the away leg in the Bernabeu, and then Real Madrid wore that, the violet in the away leg, and shooted away leg to them, and it's just absolutely sensational. And lo and behold, there was a sports shop in Greenock that had the kit, and it was sponsored by Upim, and it had the coccarda, the little round green, white and red Italian flagged, and the kind of RAF badge style, that's the kind of mod style, that's the coccarda, the cockade that denotes the Coppa Italia holders. And then I got paint on it. I'm obviously much too fat for it now. I'm talking like 35 years ago here. I wore it at the fives, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's Kappa, and it's got the Kappa badge on it, the manufacturer. And it was a paint stain on it at one point. I was wearing it while decorating as I got a bit older, and the paint stain, it was like kind of white Gialorossi paint, and just splashed all over it. And I thought, well, I'm too fat to wear it now. I don't want to wash it in case I completely ruin the kit altogether. I sometimes have it up behind me when I'm doing the podcasts for Inside the House, my European preview pods. And I thought that stain all over it just looks like it's a kind of testament to how erotic I thought that kit was when I first saw it. And I knew I could actually get one, the 1989-90 version of the kit they wore when they became the first club to beat Real Madrid in the Bernabeu in 1959. And this is European football. Excites me, sustains me, it gets me going. It was my way into all the other things that have made me the well-known kind of literary salon character that I'm just now around Glasgow and continental Europe. I absolutely love European football, and Rangers being in it, Rangers having a go at it. I grew up at a time when Rangers had already been in 3 European finals. I knew we were a European final club. I love it so much, and to have lived and seen us back in a European final. I went down to Manchester in 2008. It was arguably the greatest moment of my life supporting Rangers. The thing that meant the most to me was seeing us in a European final. To win the thing would have been absolutely tremendous, but it was just to be there, and that's why I didn't try as hard as I should have probably to get to Seville to see us playing Eintracht Frankfurt, one of the 3 clubs now that have lost the European Cup or Champions League final, never won it, that I haven't seen in the flesh. Roma and Club Brugge being 2 of the ones that have only ever been runners-up in the European Cup or the Champions League final that I managed to get off the list this season. So I've only got Eintracht Frankfurt. Still got to see them, as well as Saint Etienne, as well as Stade de Reims. I've got to go back to France. I've got to go to France to see these clubs now. And I will, because they excite me so much in European football, and it's like... It was 40 years ago that obviously the first time I fell in love with European club football was probably 1977, seeing it in my first ever European Cup final, watching that, Liverpool beating Borussia Mönchengladbach in Rome, in the Stadio Olimpico in Rome. I don't know what clubs play in that stadium. Then to go there, to really kind of... to augment it, to solidify it, to go to a European club game, and it was Alessandro Altobelli scoring for Inter, a guy who'd scored in the World Cup final 2 years earlier, and Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, a 2 times European Footballer of the Year, is playing for, he's hitting the woodwork, the square post that we used to have at Ibrox, he's hitting them that night. You get Liam Brady, when I went to Milan for the first time, to see the Milan derby, the Derby della Madonnina in 1994, when Milan were the holders of the Champions League and Inter were the holders of the UEFA Cup, the competition that I saw them in for the first time ever, playing Rangers in the UEFA Cup. And my mate and I are standing the Saturday night. The game was in the Sunday. We're near the Costa Buenos Aires in Milan, And we had a few drinks, obviously, and we're at this a carry-out wagon, a meat wagon, a bun wagon, a chip wagon, whatever you want to call it, a greasy spoon Milan style, which was basically, it was buffalo. It's just some sort, again, like Union Berlin. It was a cow and a bun, and it was absolutely gorgeous. We were standing there having that just to soak up the Bira Spira Alamedias we'd been tanking all night near the Domo. And this guy's standing with he's chatting away at his girlfriend, and they're a bit distressed, the two of him and his girlfriend, and she's got the car, and they're kind of having a go at each other in Italian. Obviously just a wee bit of a domestic, nothing too bad. And he comes up to us and he starts talking to us, and he's obviously questioning, wanting to know something in general. And I don't. Turned out the guy his girlfriend had been along there earlier, and she dropped the petrol cap. The petrol cap had come off the car. It wasn't attached to the car, and she'd lost it, so they're trying to find the petrol cap. And he was just asking us, have you seen a petrol cap kicking about? Did you see her earlier on where she stupidly, loosened that petrol cap? I think there's a wee garage there or something like that. But he quickly, it'll be like, no, sorry, sono Scozzese. And he just immediately went, Rangers Club. And I'm like, see, yeah, it's Inter, and he's Lion Brady. And we walked out, and we're like, aye, like the game at Ibrox, it's Lion Brady, Altobelli, and Rummenigge, and all that. And it was like, me, San Siro, you, Glasgow. Aye, Ibrox, we were at the game at Ibrox. We walked out that he'd been at the San Siro like at that time, and I was only at 15 at the time. I wasn't travelling abroad with Rangers at that point in time, but he'd been at the San Siro, like, went into the 1-3 and Calvin Rummenigge scored what he called his greatest goal of all time. It was this flying overhead kick that got disallowed for dangerous play. He's still maintained, Calvin Rummenigge, years later. I read him saying that was his favourite of all the goals that he scored, a disallowed goal against Rangers. And so this guy had been at the game in the San Siro, and I know what's the chances? Obviously, I'm meeting an Inter supporter in Milan of all places, but his wife, his girlfriend or wife, she's a Milanista, and we're just chatting away in pidgin Italian and pidgin English, and it was a beautiful moment there. We weren't talking about literature and like that, or the arts, these kind of things. That's what Italian football means to me. But it's 40 years. 40 years. I sealed it with that game, and it's literally the lifespan. Is it over? Is it done? Is that it? Because how you doing, folks? This is your Fat Ek immediate post. This last season, almost this time last season, we were heading for 8th place in the new Swiss system Europa League group stage, which put us straight through to the round of 16. And this year, we're heading for 8 straight defeats if we don't watch ourselves in European competition. The second last season of the groups of 4 teams, the traditional group stage, as you would know it if you're a Mackinac age. We got arguably the worst ever performance. It was produced by Rangers, the worst ever performance in a Champions League 4-team group stage, and we're in serious danger of, in the second season of the Swiss system, probably being the only club ever to finish with 0 points, the first club to finish with 0 points. I've not checked last season's the Conference League and Champions League and Europa League group, but I know Dinamo Kiev were bottom for a long time and then moved off the bottom of the Europe, because they'd put us out the Champions League qualifiers. So the Europa League certainly didn't finish with anybody on 0 points. There's another 4 games to go. We're at the halfway stage, but it's getting a bit frightening now. It's getting a bit bad. Are we ruining the European legacy that we built up? We got to that final in Seville, penalties away from winning this competition, and now here we are, embarrassingly bottom of the league. And I don't like to have feelings that make me not want to enjoy European football, because it means far too much to me, as the banner said, hung over the balcony of the Govan at half time. This isn't a hobby. This is our lives. It really shouldn't be. I was waiting for Eamon Andrews to pop out with lots of big books. Eamon Andrews, this isn't a hobby. This is our lives. So I was waiting, and all the books would be, one for every person in the stadium. You'd open up the books and they'd be full of programmes, football programmes. They'd be full of ticket stubs. They'd be full of photographs of them and their pals. in their Rangers colours, wearing Rangers polo shirts that their pals have bought for them and something, and all watching the teddy bears and really enjoying the European stuff. And you can't make it your life, you shouldn't make it your life, but as somebody who's doing this amount of podcasting about Rangers and used to do that amount of blogging and has contributed to wee books and things about Rangers, then I can't argue with the fact that's not my life. I've got other interests, I've got other things that I want to do, but it's not even so much Rangers in the league, it's Rangers in Europe is the thing, and it's looking like a bit of a horror show so far this season. Reaction pod coming to you in association with Jersnet. I don't even know who's on Jersnet tomorrow night, and again, I don't envy them. Jersnet live every Friday night 9 p.m. on the Jersnet YouTube channel, and every Sunday the flagship show 9:30 p.m. on the Jersnet YouTube channel. I'm sponsored by that, and I'm sponsored by being a pig ignorant get who lets lots of people who've been kind enough to watch his verbose, morbidly obese podcasts and come back to you with points taken from your verbose, morbidly obese podcasts in the reply section, and I don't get back to you. I've been too busy doing the actual podcast this week, folks. I've tried to get back to as many folks as I possibly can. There's been a slight invasion of your nastier kind of Celtic supporter, your more hysterical kind of Celtic supporter this week. Just the fact that Rangers supporters are a bit upset with a referee. That's what we do. That's not what you do. You get all the decisions. We don't get any. That's what you do. And there's been a bit of that. And lots of really sensible Celtic supporters, people that I've known for a while now, and are really good guys and girls. And I just not had a chance to get with sensible chats and a good laugh and all that. And I've not had a chance to get back to you all. And I'm really, really sorry about that. I'm going to, because it's my favourite bit. My favourite bit is once I've done all the podding, is chatting away to everybody. But I haven't had a chance to do that, so apologies for that. My name is Alec Anderson, e luce van le stella, e dolezzava la terra, stridea l'uscio dell'orto, e un passo sfiorava la renna. Mi cadea fra le braccia, oh dolci baci, oh languide carezze, mentre io fremente la belle forme di scioglie veli, svani per sempre il sogno mio d'amore, l'ora è fuggita, e mio disperato, e mio disperato, e non ho amato mai tanto la vita, tanto la vita. I rushed through that a bit there because I've done it before. You know, you've heard that one before. It's Alec, the opera. Eck, come on, what's happened with the opera constantly? And it's always Puccini, it's always Verdi. What about a bit of Wagner? I mean, that's all through composed. How am I supposed to do? There's no arias in Wagner. You know what I mean? You might do the leap stuff from Tristan and Isolde. It's not going to happen, folks. It's not going to happen, although it might before the end of the season if things get much better under Danny Röhl. They have to get much better at this point in time. But I've done that before, but of course it's Tosca, Flora Tosca. You know, she's on the Castle St Angelo. She chucks herself off the battlements there after doing away with Scarpe and all that. But that's Rome. Been to the actual Castle St Angelo. I talked about that in the preview pod last night. Right, is that enough ranting and raving? Have we get rid of all the Celtic ambulance chasers, all the opposition fans? I only say this because before I was loading up the phone there, I noticed we'd get a message from an Aberdeen supporter. You know, at COYR, something or else. Just giving it, it's great when both the bigot brothers get beat in Europe, and then a whole lot of stuff about not being a real supporter and shut your mouth and all that before I even had a chance. I just deleted it. But it was like they've got a point tonight. Aberdeen have got a point, which is taking them off the bottom of the Conference League table, where they were proudly placed, and it's kind of in your face, losers. You've got to admire that stuff. You've got to admire it. Oh for a point though. Oh for a point. To our name in European club competition this season in the group stages. So my name's Alec Anderson. I'm standing here outside New Edmiston House with the Copeland Road back to front as I set up my phone the wrong way behind me after Rangers have lost by 2-0 2-0 against AS Roma in our first ever meeting with a Roman club, either of the Roman clubs in European club competition, and our fourth game in the 2025-2026 Europa League group stage. Rangers gone down by 2-0 at home to Roma, and we have got 0 points. We've scored 1 goal in this group stage, and it means we have lost 7 consecutive games. I think I was looking at the BBC website, the sports website the other day, was saying that the football website aspect of the BBC was saying that I think Hibs and Motherwell have both lost like 7 in a row or 8 in a row in European competition, but they've done it over like years. maybe only 3 or 4 in Motherwell's case, but they've done it over years. We've done it all since August. Just losing 7 games on the trot. We started this season, we beat Panathinaikos, our first European out, and we beat Panathinaikos at Ibrox. Major result. I know they had lots of chances, they missed lots of chances. We drew with them in the away leg over in Athens. They missed lots of chances again. They end up signing Dessers because they're missing so many chances. But you can't argue with the fact that we did go through without losing either of the games in that tie. We then put out Victoria Pilsen. We beat them 3-0 at Ibrox, and probably remains still our best performance of the season. And people just don't really know where it came from. Oliver Antman's debut, and then had the brilliance thoroughly coached out of him since then. And then that was it. The second leg, we won 3-0 that night, so we lost the second leg 2-1. Wasn't in any way hurting us, because we're already we go through on aggregate. We equalised on the night as well, so it was only latterly that Pilsen they were 1-0 up. We equalise. And then they come back to win the game 2-1 on the night. By that time it was a bit too late, but it was a panic. That whole game, we were very panicky. We were absolutely terrible in defence, really shaky in that game. But you're thinking, you're not really bothered. We're overcomplicating it. We're getting a bit too nervy here. It's all right, but we're through. Everyone's going to be fine. And we got Club Bruges, and they were 3-0 up in 20 minutes. Ibrox pulled a goal back. Maybe you never know. Maybe we could make this respectable. It'll be probably the worst performance I've ever seen from Rangers. Certainly an all-time low in the away leg. When you're 6-0 down, thinking this is going to end. This is going to be 10. This is going to be 10. Only perhaps the time you get put out by Progress near the corner, beat 7-1 at home by Liverpool, could rival it in terms of awful nights in Europe for Rangers. And then we dropped down into the Europa League group stage. That's fine, that was job done, really. So let's try and rationalise things. And then we go into the Europa League group stage. And it's because we performed so well in it, because I'm so proud of our record in this competition. It highlights what we've done this season in starker relief. And even if we hadn't reached the final 3 years ago, basically, even if we hadn't reached the quarter-final last season, even if we hadn't excelled in this very group stage less than 12 months ago, earlier on this year, we're still... where did we go? Beating Union St Gilloise in January this year to make sure we went through. And who were finishing Union St Gilloise? Tony Bloom, he's now doing the same job at Hearts. They're winning the Belgian title for the first time in like 90 years, basically, and they're going to the Champions League, and we're topping them, we're beating them to go into the straight through to the last 16. Phenomenal stuff, and here we are. Here we are, a mere 10 months later, and it's all seriously going to pot. Even if we hadn't done all those things, to be bottom of a group with 0 points after 4 games, when I don't think, as I say, anybody else with the Swiss system, I don't think in either of the 3 competitions has last season ended with 0 points. You would hope, of course, that we're not going to end with 0 points. We've got, I think Nice are still on 0 points. Nice, who we beat 4-1 last season in their own patch, and who Roma have already beaten this season on their own patch, which proven they only beat them 2-1, proving that Roma aren't any great shakes. You're hoping we could maybe catch them, and I think there's 2 or 3 other clubs that are on a single point. So we've got 4 games to go, but we've got Porto away, we've got Braga at home. Play like we did tonight, and I just can't see us getting anything from them. You're going away to Ferencvaros, managed by Robbie Keane. Not Champions League kind of level Ferencvaros, but in Budapest, Fradi, always a bit of a highly experienced, a highly decorated, a highly storied European club. They won the 1965 Fairs Cup. Ferencvaros, and they lost another Fairs Cup final, and they lost the 75 Winners' Cup final to Dynamo Kiev in Switzerland, but a pretty storied club, always a contender in a European tie. So they're going well enough under Robbie Keane, and they're wearing the hoops, and he'll be out to get us, and that's just leaving us Ludogorets Razgrad at Ibrox, and they are group stage regulars in various European club competitions. Are Ludogorets Razgrad, even though Bulgaria's stock in club football isn't very high. They are Bulgarian club football in Europe, really. So I don't think we're going to finish with 0 points, but I've been saying that for the last 4 games. It's been awful, folks. this is a game tonight. Had we did what we were supposed to do in our first 3 games in this group stage, which is win them all, we should have won the lot, and we should at least be getting a draw. I think Brandbergen are slightly better than we're giving them credit for. But even to get a draw over there, we should have been beating Genk at home. They were woeful. We should have been beating Sturm Graz over there. They were pretty average as well. But I'm saying we should have beat them. Well, last season's Rangers, the one that got Philip Clement sacked, the one that people hounding out last season's board, would definitely have cruised past all the clubs we've played so far, and would have enjoyed tonight. Win or lose, we would have you'd be able to enjoy the occasion. That's a beautiful thing about this new group stage system. The 8 games you can qualify, you can get through, which is more than enough for us. And you can take it like when we only drew with Spurs, despite the fact we missed a kind of sitter at the end. Eggerman, good save. By Foster at the end of that game with Spurs. But what a night that was, and when we lost to Manchester United at Old Trafford, that was probably my highlight of the entire bloody season. Even though it happened in a sickening way, that equaliser against Man U at Old Trafford was tremendous, a tremendous European moment. We were able to take that on board because we were still going through the group anyway. But no, that's not what's happening this season at all. And when I say you would expect a club like Rangers to be winning the first 3 games that we've played, or to be getting 2 wins and a draw out of the first 3 games we've played in this group stage this season. But this particular Rangers team that we have set up just now, no, you're no expect the actual team, the actual players themselves. No, we shouldn't be expecting them. There's no should about it. They are getting the results they absolutely deserve so far tonight. So I'm scared. I am scared. I'm not enjoying this at all, and it's really horrible not to be enjoying Rangers in Europe and not to be able to relax and then fully enjoy it. Roma only winning 2-0 is probably a good thing. It's that in itself would probably normally, I say in other circumstances, just be okay, take it on the chin. You have a wee lament about how poorly we played tonight. You've maybe got a chance you could have taken, a goal that was avoidable. Everything seems avoidable just now, but you would enjoy this occasion. Couldn't do it tonight. Just couldn't enjoy that at all, because there's that fear there now that you're going to end up with a record-breakingly bad, humiliating to the club's name sort of performance by the end of this group stage. So the team tonight, it was the setup. I was saying there's no way. I don't know what the team's going to be tomorrow night in my preview pod. Don't know what the team's going to be tomorrow night, but Giga's no playing. That's it. Giga's got to get dropped. So he was still in the team, obviously. He started tonight. He started in the left-hand side of the 3 centre-backs as opposed to the right-hand side. Tav went back to the right-hand side of the 3 centre-halves. We played a 3-4-2-1, and it was no Derek Cornelius. We had John Suter and Tav as the centre-halves alongside Giga, Jack Butland, Super Jack Butland in goals, obviously. You then get Raskin and Connor Barron's back after domestic suspension. Connor Barron was back for to sit alongside Nico Raskin as a holding 2 in midfield, with the 2 wing-backs up beside them in the shape of Max Aarons, who'd come on to play at right back. He started at right back today. Max Aarons, somebody who didn't start a League Cup final, and you had Magoma keeping his place at left-sided wing-back. And then you had Mikey Moore and JD Gassama, as I wanted, supporting the striker. I thought the striker might be Majowski for some stupid reason, just to try and be different in my preview pod, but it was the target man. It was big Chermiti. I think he's in there, Chermiti. I think he's in with the wood now. The manager clearly, or the head coach Danny Röhl, clearly likes him, clearly fancies him. I don't think he'll be swayed by the fact that I don't think there's any internal politics going on here. Kevin Thirlwell telling him you've got to get him in the team. I've paid so much money for him. But I think tonight was the night I realised anyway, Chermiti can't shoot. He can't. I mean, it's too late. Over in Sturm Graz, lots of chances over in Graz for him. And I thought he's doing that thing of a rusty striker, a young striker, a guy settling into a new country, into a new team. He's doing the runs, he's making the chances, he's in the right position. He's just not quite got the kind of confidence and he's not relaxed enough really to put. No, now, he just looks like that's it. He can't actually hit a ball. He doesn't know how to head it on target. He doesn't know how to shoot on target. If he does shoot it on target, it's so kind of pallid that the goalkeeper can have himself a wee pack lunch between the ball leaving Chermiti's foot and him gathering it up in his arms. But big Chermiti, he was up front, and it's Mikey Moore was on he's coming on a game these days, Mikey Moore, in the new role of being slightly tucked in, supporting the striker as opposed to being out wide and part of a front three. But he was on the left-hand side tonight, and Gassama was on the right-hand side. And Gassama, I think his game has actually gone backwards since. I know he's played at wing-back under Danny Röhl. Danny Röhl, the guy who's supposed to have turned him into a player, he kind of got inside his head and made him the player he became, that made him an absolute bargain for us, according to everybody in the English League Championship. He's a £20 million player. We got him for £2 million because Sheffield Wednesday are going through all sorts of off-the-park nonsense. But there's no sign now of those goals where he curls it in from wide, where the goal he scored against Panathinaikos, the goals he's scoring against. He scored one domestically, didn't he? And he scored against Victoria Pilsenia here at Ibrox as well. That's gone from him, and he seems a bit jaded. He definitely had a couple of cracking dribbles tonight, but I don't know if he's been played on the wrong side, but I think it might be him being tucked in. Doesn't he give him the kind of run at it? He doesn't have all his ducks in a row in front of him. That's my wee pet theory anyway. He's gone slightly off it a bit, but still one of the best players we've got, if not the best. But Roma came out and it was a night of flags, it was a night of banners, it was a night of and obviously Rome famous for banners and flags and stuff like that. This was my 80th European finalist club. As I say, 106 different clubs have reached the finals of the three European club competitions. Three different iterations. It's kind of complicated if you don't know what I'm talking about. It's right. Okay, so the Cup Winners' Cup. It was near a tertiary competition, but it was like a third competition that disappeared in 1999, and I was at that game. I was at the last Cup Winners' Cup final. I saw Lazio winning that at Villa Park, and then the first time I see Roma, they're winning at Ibrox. Lazio won 2-1 that night against Real Mallorca. Rangers have lost 2-0 the night. Roma have won 2-0. So at Villa Park, Ibrox, Lions, and there's a lot of different connections between the Rangers and Aston Villa, mostly because we both played our first European final and we're away kits. Nobody remembers Villa's only European final, but that's the connections there anyway. Saw Roma winning by 2 goals, and they're wearing that Dundee United-ish kind of. I saw it on the big screens, and it seemed to match perfectly the kind of burnt orange, really light red livery of the Europa League kind of bunting, the Europa League marketing colours. That kind of orange, the zigzag, the flashes, and the silhouette of the trophy itself. And Roma's kit, when I saw it on the big screen, so it might have looked very tangerine to you, but it wasn't as bright, for example, or as deep as the all orange that we were wearing at Easter Road. This kind of 8 days ago, but it was quite kind of. It was carrying a kind of redolence of that semi-final they had against Dundee United. Probably the first time I saw Roma on the telly properly, first time I kind of involved with them when they were playing Dundee United in the semi-final of the European Cup. And that's the last time they played a Scottish team in Europe. Yes, Dundee United kids, they were champions of Scotland in 1983, and they got to the semi-finals of the old Champions League the following season. Walter Smith, assistant manager to Jim McLean. And when they came to Tandis, I think they were wearing all white. They were all white in the final, Roma, and they were all white when they won their first European trophy, the 1961 Fairs Cup. So the Fairs Cup becomes the UEFA Cup becomes the Europa League. So that's all one competition as far as guys like me are concerned. Then the Cup Winners' Cup is kind of replaced after 20 odd years. You get the Cup Winners' Cup. It dies. Europe goes into 2 competitions, UEFA Cup and the Champions League, but then you get the Conference League, a brand new competition coming in, which is brought in as a tertiary competition. The Cup Winners' Cup used to kind of vie with the UEFA Cup to see which one was the second best after the European Cup back in the old days. And so the Conference League, you can still say 3 competitions now, but there has been 4. There has been 4 separate European club competitions, like the Champions League is the European Cup. So that's one competition. There's been 4 different ones, never any more than 3 at the one time. But anyway, across the history of that, it's been 106 different clubs. Real Betis, when they played Chelsea in last season's Conference League final, that was the first time Real Betis had ever reached a European final. Amazingly, considering what they live with in the same city. Sevilla being one, like the Celtic fans have gone. You don't need to keep going on about this. So that's the first time I saw a European tie. I was seeing Inter, and that was me seeing a European club finalist. But I'd already seen 2 at that point in time, like back in 1977, went to my first Rangers game, and Rangers, of course, had already been in 3 European finals by that point, so I was getting a European finalist number 1 off the list. We're playing Hibs. I saw us playing Hibs in April 77, my first game at Ibrox. I might have mentioned that 255 times in these pods, but Hibs had reached the semi-finals of the first European Cup back in 55-56. They reached the semi-finals of the Fairs Cup. They lost to Roma when Roma won the way to their first European final to winning the Fairs Cup in 61. They lost to Roma after a play-off in the semi-finals. So Hibs nearly a European finalist a couple of times, but then I saw, I think it was earlier 1984, it was kind of April 1984, here at Ibrox anyway. Bobby Williamson overhead kick, that was my first Old Firm game. So when I saw Celtic, that was me seeing a European finalist. They'd been in 2 European Cup finals at that point in time. So that was Dundee United, but the first time I saw them, no, they weren't a European finalist, but they soon became 87. They got to the. I don't want to talk about the game. The whole thing is Roma's kit tonight. I was wanting to see them in the all white. I went kind of about face on this one because I'd seen them in their game against Nice over in the Côte d'Azur, and they were wearing this all white kit, but it had like a green trim on it. And I thought, no, that's no. I don't want to see Roma looking like they're wearing a kind of Celtic away kit or something like that. But I don't know what the green is for. But I'm thinking, no, it's all white. That's their traditional. That's their European final away kit. Now they wore their classic Gialorossi, the old reds, with the yellow trim. They wore that in the 1991 UEFA Cup final against Inter, I think, in both legs, and they wore it when they won. They became the first team to win the Conference League, the first Conference League final in 2022, and when they lost the Europa League final in 2023. But they wore all white in their first European trophy win, that 61 First Cup, and they wore all white in their most famous European final when they lost to Liverpool in penalties in that 1984 European Cup final after beating Dundee United in the semi-final. And I felt as if that kit they had on tonight was kind of saying Dundee United. It was saying. It also had a kind of a bit of the all white for some reason, because it's all completely self-coloured. I think it was maybe, I'm thinking of the flares, the pyro that would be going off in the Stadio Olimpico, because they famously played that 1984 European Cup final at home, but it wasn't their home kit. But it was very Gialorossi, it was very Roma, and it's sometimes an away kit, that's all you want it to be. It's a difficult thing for an away kit to still embody the club that is wearing it, and it did it nicely tonight. So it was a beautiful thing to see Roma at Ibrox, and what a beautiful tifo from the Union Bears. Absolutely gorgeous. I got it sent to me because everybody knows now that when I was sitting in the main stand, I can't see it. Anybody that knows me, sorry, not everybody that's known the news are in like that. I couldn't see the tifo last night. Thanks, Rahman. But I could see it, obviously, it was starting to get put together, because you turn up early for these European games. You should anyway, know that it's a QR codes on the phones, and they're going to be busy anyway because it's a big occasion. It's no tidy. It's a nervous thing, trying the QR codes, put it in the QR reader. Folk are having an absolute nightmare with it. I'm no different to anybody. You've got to stop the screensaver coming on. If I got it on the night light setting or whatever like that, I've expanded it, and if I've expanded it too much, but it takes a while to get in, so I ended up getting in super early, and I saw the tifo starting to get put together, and it was clearly the Roman ruins. It was the ancient ruins of Rome that you can still walk about. I've walked about them, and go watch the preview pod last night if you want, in my gushing OTT, totally solipsistic kind of personal history with the city of Rome. But being there, it's gorgeous, and you're thinking, this is the Roman ruins that are going up there, and then there's blue and white flags flying in between. I'm thinking, that's quite nice, but I don't really know what's going to... And then we produced... And is this I think it's the first time we've done this. The kind of stuff you see Legia Warsaw doing, or Borussia Dortmund at the yellow wall, that proper continental tifo, where you bring up something on... what is it? What would you call it? A pulley system you've got. It's behind the goal but in front of the stand. So the tifo, the actual punters in the Copeland Road, and well done to every single bloody one of them, are all holding up the background really. And then up goes this tifo, and I'm dead square on it. So to me, it's just this big pencil thin kind of thing that's going up on a rope. I've no idea what it was. Somebody sent it to me. Jesus Christ, it's absolutely got. Obviously a gladiator, obviously meant to be a Roman gladiator. I can't quite make out the writing around the shield that's got the Rangers lion on it, but I think it's all the Semper. It's always with, I'm going to be always with you probably, whatever it is in Latin. And the Roma fans reacted badly, which means it must have been good. It was absolutely gorgeous. Well done to everybody involved in that. What a phenomenal, a really appropriate tifo for the occasion. Rangers, the whole Protestant garbage and the whole Catholic garbage and all that nonsense, all the garbage that makes us the club that we actually are and lets me enjoy these fantastic European nights and stuff like that. It has to be, it's kind of spoofing it at the same time as it's a tribute to. We did the same thing with Barcelona. Remember when Barcelona came here? The only time we played Barcelona in Europe, what a show we put on for them, what a tifo we put on for them, and just, more than a club, we're picking out in letters in the Govan. I was at the back of the Govan for all the years, and we're the big tifo of the Cup Winners' Cup and what have you. It's an absolute compliment, a tribute to Barcelona. And then there were Messi's bitchy about us at the end of the game because we held them to a 0-0, and their fans were absolute wankers towards us when I was over there for the away leg. But we'll try to be nice to these Roma fans, and the Roma fans, they've got that thing going. I was just realising tonight, Roma formed in 1927. We're actually 55. What a number. We are 55 years older than Roma, but because of their colours, which are barely colours, they just look, it's like kind of sepia tinted, their colours, so they give off a gravitas, they give off an age, a kind of an ancientness, a kind of whiff of antiquity that they don't really deserve to in many respects. They were formed from a merger of 3 different clubs, let's say back in 1927. But I think it's that kind of, it's almost kind of brown and yellow they've got going on. And it becomes when there's enough, and there's about, I'd say about 2,500 of them in the ground tonight. We to take out a couple of extra blocks in the bottom of the Brimlin to accommodate them, and empty a couple of blocks, or a block and a half, and they got in the Brimlin rear for security reasons, whatever. So there's a big space above them, but they're looking plenty colourful, but in that really drab yet historic looking way that Roma do. That's the attraction of Roma as well. And I'm thinking it's the same effect. They had this, the Romulus and Remus, it's part of their crest and what have you. They're always incorporating the foundation, the foundation myth of Rome into their colours, into their badges and that. And it's the Romulus and Remus suckling in the she-wolf. And they had a flag, a kind of 6x4 flag with that, which they were holding up right in the front, right in the very corner, the kind of northwest corner, that wee northwest corner of the stadium, right in the corner bit that's facing, kind of diagonally off to through the corner flag towards the other corner flag. And it was kind of mustardy yellow and brown almost, but it creates a bronzy kind of hue. And I'm thinking, what does that remind me of? Obviously I know it's obviously reminding you of ancient Rome and their founding myth, the founding myth of the city itself, and Roma are the club that have adopted that. Lazio with the eagle, just going more for the kind of Mussolini stuff. But I think, and that all comes from the fasces, and that fascism, the fascist name for it comes from the fasces, which is used in America. They use that in the House of Representatives and stuff like that. It's all that kind of iconography all comes from ancient Rome, from the legions and what have you. So you can get away with it if you want to try and explain it away. But the actual colour itself, I'm thinking that's reminded me, and it was Sparta Prague when they came here for the 3rd time they came to Ibrox in Europe, but it was the 2nd time in 3 seasons. It was Philip Clement's first home European tie as manager. I remember we beat them 2-1, and they had this kind of yellow and purple away, like kind of yellowy top with purple shorts, and it's the same kind of feel as that. And I'm thinking, what it is with Roma is it's the same effect you get when you watch, like, say for example, what do you call it? A swashbuckler. You watch a bit of a swashbuckler, old style film. If you're watching it in colour, right, you think, and the guys are all wearing, 17th century costume, you're thinking, all right, that's fine. But if it's black and white, it might be around about the 1940s when it could just as easily be colour or black and white. If you're watching it in black and white, somehow that makes it more, and you think, oh, that's a wee part of you's thinking that must have been filmed at the time. that must have actually been filmed. Mutiny in the Bounty or something like that. That must have actually been filmed on that ship. It's a news report. It's not a film because it's black and white. Well, that's old footage. It's still the 1940s as opposed to, I don't know, early 18th century or wherever the story's actually set. But I think it's that same kind of little trick going on with Roma. Quite a young club, but they seem like the most ancient club, not because they're appelling or taking on board or stitching it onto themselves or sticking it onto themselves the history of the city from which they come, and it's a beautiful thing, a beautiful thing. And I was talking at great length last night as I talk about everything about how I watched this video. You need to watch the preview pod. I don't want to get into that again. There's been too much podding this week, asking too much of your ears, folks. But as this roar where Roma hit the post against Juventus in 1989 at the Stadio Olimpico, and I thought that is the roar of the Colosseum. That is the roar of the Circus Maximus having come down through the ages. The ancient Romans meeting up with the modern Romans through the work of AS Roma. Well, I got to hear them roaring twice tonight, didn't I? And as I was saying to a Celtic supporting friend today, that whole thing of the more I gush, the more I love, the more I anticipate, the more kind of emotional I get and excited I get, the more animated I get about a big European tie at Ibrox, or a big European tie, Rangers playing anybody in Europe. The worse it gets, the worse it tends to go. I'd never seen Napoli until we played them in the Champions League under Gio. And they only beat us 3-0 at Ibrox. And it was quite a magical night for a lot of different reasons. McGregor's penalty save, the first singing of God Save the King in my lifetime and in a few of our lifetimes. It was quite a magical moment for a lot of things, but they beat us 3-0 home and away, and then Liverpool in the same group. Oh my God, Liverpool. To see Rangers shooting towards the Kop, I actually burst into tears almost. I'll get choked up. Gersnet preview pod for that game, thinking, I grew up with Liverpool and they were the team in Europe, and when I was a kid I didn't support them and like that, but just the thought of Rangers shooting towards the Kop, and we didn't get a touch. We didn't get a shot in at the Kop end in the away leg, and we didn't even get a touch of the ball in the box at the Kop end. We went to Anfield, only get beat 2-0, but my God, it was what they did to us at Ibrox. And it was the same with Roma. I was just gushing about Roma. To see them, it's the 80th of the 106 European club finalists. It's number 80 for myself, and probably the biggest club in Europe that I haven't seen live. 80. If you are Roman, that's XXC, number XXC, and it was easy. XXC peasy for Roma tonight. I think they played totally within themselves. There were a couple of corners in the first 12 minutes, I think the 13th minute, perhaps the second corner, and they scored from that because we are absolutely woeful at defending corners. We're woeful at attacking corners. When we've got a corner in the opposition box, they just put a ball into our box, they got a flick on, and the guy just has to stoop to nod it in, stooping to conquer at the back post. They just nodded it into an empty net. Absolutely, you could see the goal coming a mile off as soon as they put that corner in there. That was it. Roma, they weren't being particularly brilliant or anything like that. They're nice to watch, I suppose, but it was flat. It was listless. We looked like a team that had played and lost an extra time semi-final against our traditional rivals on the Sunday. We just looked kind of gone in the legs. There was no vigour. There was no resolution. There was no aggression, really, if I'm being honest about it. Maybe we were actually giving it so much, and we were just discovering the fact that, how technically inferior we were to Roma, and it wasn't that much, obviously. So we just looked a bit kind of in comparison. We looked a bit off it to Roma, but I don't think it was that. I think Roma were playing completely within themselves. They're fourth in Serie A. They might not be prioritised in Europe this season. They've lost their previous two ties in the group stage, both at home, but they won their previous away tie, away to Nice. And tonight, they didn't look like they were going at it any great guns, but they were just moving quicker. It was like that thing I always talk about, when I used to play fives or play football in general. Not that what I did could be called playing football, but I didn't really get close to anybody, but I could flatter to deceive. I could be quite performative, like trying to keep up with guys, or running alongside them, or maybe getting close enough to trip them up or something. But there must be certain guys you would play against who you just couldn't get anywhere near. They'd maybe played professional football, they'd played juniors or something like that. They were, a mate had brought them along, and they all seemed to be walking. They seemed to be going very slowly, whereas everybody else, is at least out of breath. even if you can't catch them either. Roma were kind of doing that to us tonight. They just looked completely comfortable in second gear. And the second goal they scored, what happened? I can't even remember. They were just kind of picking their passes. We're just moving us all over the place. Laid the ball back to somebody edge of the box, just kind of strokes it into the bottom corner. It was just too easy. This is like the 36th minute or something. It's 2-0. You're 2-0 down. Still another 10 minutes to half time. I think it's just going to be another one of those nights because there was no way we were going to get any. We weren't going to get anything out of this game at that point in time. It was looking absolutely awful. I thought, I don't want to have another one of those horror nights where a tie that I really anticipated turns into one of the worst experiences of my life supporting Rangers. It didn't get that bad. I think, what did we do in the first half? I think we piled in from the left-hand side. I'm assuming that was through Mikey Moore. A bit of dribbling going on, a bit of the ball bouncing about clumsily in the Roma box, and I looked at one point we might knock it in, but they cleared it, and then they went on the counter-attack and they scored against us. Gassama dribbled past a few guys coming in from the right-hand side at one point, being a bit of a kind of winger, almost hitting the byline. Couldn't quite get a shot on target, and there was a long ball forward which Roma mucked up. A long ball from our half, probably John Suter, lumped a long ball forward to big Chermiti, who, because Roma get mixed up, he managed to get onto the ball and drives in and shoots past the far post. And we all kind of went, ooh, that looked like it could have ended up on target if it had been on target. I get it. I get why Chermiti plays. If you ignore the price tag, which none of us can, I get why he plays. You can see he's a focus for a very poor team. And when you got a defence as bad as ours, you need an outball. You need somebody who can be up there just to take these emergency clearances off you. If we have the ability to make the clearances, we're terrible in defence. Giga wasn't as bad as he was on Sunday. That'd be difficult, but he's. And a lot of times it's just he's being extra cool on the ball, and it's us that are getting nervous, and he makes his pass, he makes his clearance, whatever, but he waits until the opposition guys are right on top of him, and in a three-man, when he's a three-man defence, that's not very comfortable. We had a couple of corners up in the. We won a couple of corners. Tav took both of them, one from each side. Roma had 4 defenders at the front of their box. On each occasion, between Tav and the goals. Not after the balls, but there's no guys attacking the ball as soon as Tav puts it in the air. It was before Tav took the corner. He just puts it right into the middle of them both times. That was weird. That was weird for Tav, the man on his 61st appearance in the Europa League group stage for Rangers. And half time, I felt Rangers looked flat. I felt flat. It's been a flat week. And the game is reflecting that. Also, let's see the fact I'm actually trying to move away, and this sweepy guy is following me. That kind of sums it up basically what's going on here. I'm trying to get him in the picture. There he's there. He's coming to get me, man. It's Jewel. It's that Steven Spielberg film. It's Jewel. He's coming to get me. Half time. There was one change, and we brought on Asgard, fellow Asgard, the man sent off in the League Cup semi-final on Sunday. He come on at half-time for Jayden Magoma. Not a straight swap, as you can imagine. So Max Aarons we went to a flat back 4. Max Aarons goes over to left back. Tav goes to right back. And Asgard comes on and goes in between Mikey Moore and JD Gassama. So they push out a wee bit wider. So it's a 3. And you've got Connor Barron and Nico Raskin in there as the holding 2. So we went to a 4-2-3-1 with Chermiti still on the park, but Asgard playing as a kind of 10 right behind him. And we got it was looking good, but the atmosphere had improved in the worst possible way during the interval, because the protest had started. It's obviously been planned as well. There was more banners, more tifos to match it coming from, I don't know who's organising this. The ICF was definitely organising the one up in the Govan rear that was getting draped over the balcony of the Govan rear. The big kind of long, thin banner. It's got the British Rail insignia. I know the guy from Sleaford Mods has got on his. You notice he's got a tattoo. The guy from Sleaford Mods. I always worry about the Sleaford Mods if they're actually pretty middle class, trying to make out their working class warriors. But in the video where